What's he say? It's a really good ball. It's Shabalala! Goal! Bafana Bafana! Jambulila! Rejoice! Bafana Bafana have topped the first court on their day of days!
In the summer of 2010, South Africa gave the world the greatest party football had ever seen. The vuvuzela was everywhere, the Rainbow Nation was whole, and when Sipiwe Tshabalala thundered that left-footed strike past Oscar Paris on opening night against Mexico no less, it wasn't just a goal, it was a declaration. A country announcing itself to a world that had doubted it could host, doubted it could compete, and doubted it was ready. For 16 years after that night, South African football went dark. They didn't qualify for Brazil, they didn't qualify for Russia, and in the cruelest cut of all, they didn't qualify for Qatar, where they lost the group to Ghana on goal difference, eliminated by one single goal. One goal. The South African Football Association, SAFA, lurched from crisis to crisis. Coaches came and went. Foreign managers arrived with European credentials and left with African excuses. The disconnect between the national team and the domestic Premier Soccer League, one of the most passionate leagues on the continent, widened into chasm. Talented players existed. The system to develop and deploy them did not. And then in May 2021, SAFA made the decision that South African football media almost universally mocked. They appointed a 69-year-old Belgian coach who had never ever worked in Africa, who barely knew the PSL, and who arrived in Johannesburg with an uncompromising belief in
ladies and gentlemen, please put your phones on silent or on flight mode, please.
European leagues or big money foreign stars. They were here, on the streets of Mzansi, in the training ground of Soweto, Tshwane and KwaZulu-Natal. His name was Hugo Broos, and almost everyone told him he was wrong. Hugo Broos had a philosophy, and it had exactly zero exceptions. He would not pick players based on reputation. He would not yield to media pressure, and he would not build Bafana Bafana around foreign-based stars who arrived twice a year, played one training session, and expected to be handed a t-shirt. He was building something different, a unit, brotherhood, team that played, trained, and bled together. His core was forged in the domestic furnace of the PSL. Mamelodi Sundowns, the Brazilians of Tshwane, the most successful club South Africa has ever produced, provided the defensive spine and the midfield intelligence. Orlando Pirates brought the pace, the swagger, and the raw South African fire. These players knew each other. They'd been breaking each other down in Soweto derbies for years. Bruce didn't have to teach them chemistry, he just had to weaponize it. And in the center of it all stood Ronwen Williams, the man who single-handedly redefined what Bafana Bafana could be in a moment of maximum pressure. At the AFCON 2024 in Ivory Coast, South Africa reached the bronze medal match, their best continental performance in nearly 3 decades. Williams saved penalty after penalty, becoming the first goalkeeper in AFCON history to save 3 penalties in a single shootout. This was not coincidence. This was character. This is what Broos had built. Coming into the 2026 World Cup qualifying campaign, Bafana Bafana were, for the first time in over a decade, believed in. Group C contained of heavyweight Nigeria, the Super Eagles, always dangerous, Benin, a rising force in African football, Rwanda, Lesotho, Zimbabwe. It was a group that demanded every point from every game. A 2-1 opening win over Benin in Durban. A difficult 2-0 loss away to Rwanda. A reminder that this group would punish any lack of concentration. And the rebuild. Wins accumulated, momentum grew. An extraordinary 2-0 victory over Benin in a neutral venue game in Ivory Coast after Benin Stadium didn't meet FIFA requirements. A hard-fought 1-1 draw against Nigeria in September 2025 that left Bafana Bafana 3 points clear at the top of the group. On the 21st of March 2025, Bafana Bafana defeated Lesotho 2-0 in Polokwane. Goals from Morello Mofokeng and Jaden Adams. 3 points, clean sheet, routine, or so it seemed. The Bogo Mokoena, the heartbeat of Bafana Bafana's midfield, the engine of Broos' system, should not have been on that pitch. He had accumulated 2 yellow cards in previous qualifiers, which under FIFA regulations triggered an automatic 1-match suspension. SAFA's team management missed this. Specifically, team manager Vincent Cheka missed it, and Mokoena played every single minute of that match. On September 29, 2025, FIFA announced their ruling. The match was forfeited, the result overturned. Lesotho were awarded 3-0 walkover victory. SAFA were fined 10,000 Swiss francs, and Bafana Bafana, who had fought and bled for every single point in that group, were stripped of 3 of them overnight. The lead they had built over 6 months of football erased with a rubber stamp in a conference room in Zurich. South African Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie was furious. Fans were devastated. Social media lit up with despair. 16 years of hurt, all those sleepless nights, all that AFCON bronze medal hope, and now this, an administrative error, not a goal given against them, not a controversial referee decision, a clerical oversight. A man who forgot to check a yellow card tally. Inside the dressing room, something different was happening, and when a journalist asked if 3 points deducted meant qualification was over, the old Belgian looked directly into the camera and said this.
It's amazing and surprising for me that people are starting doubting now that we can't qualify anymore. This is ridiculous.
Hugo Broos made decisions. That is what he does. After the points deduction, he did not pick experience over form. He doubled down on the players who had built this journey. He added Talente Mbata, the Sundowns midfielder, with the rocket in his left boot and ice in his veins to the spine of his team. He trusted Oswin Apollos, the Orlando Pirates winger who had tormented defenders across the continent all campaign. And he trusted the collective, always the collective. Nigeria, the Super Eagles, Africa's most storied football nation, was still alive. Victor Osimhen was back in form, lethal, hungry. They faced Benin first and then Rwanda. They needed results and they needed Bafana Bafana to slip. And Benin somehow, the group leaders, after absorbing 2 defeats to South Africa, held their own fate in their hands. Win their last 2 games and they were going to America. For South Africa to win the group on the final day, they needed to beat Rwanda. That was part what they can control. But they also needed Nigeria, their rival, their nemesis, the team that had pushed them all campaign, to go to Uyo and beat Benin. Bafana Bafana needed Nigeria to do them a favor. They needed their rivals to deliver. They needed to trust that football occasionally is fair. October the 14th, Mbombela Stadium, 16 years in the making. 4 changes from the Zimbabwe draw. Mbata, Makopa, Ndamani, and Tapelo Morena came in. Broos was clear. He needed goals. He needed them early. He needed the group table moving in Bafana Bafana's favor before Rwanda could settle into their defensive cell. 5 minutes into the game, Talente Mbata, a strike so pure it looked like he'd been practicing it in his garden for 16 years. And that exact moment, 15,000 kilometers north in Uyo, Victor Osimhen had already put Nigeria 1-0 up against Benin. Within 5 minutes of kickoff, South Africa were mathematically on their way to the World Cup. They just had to hold it. They had to earn it. 21st minute, Tapelo Morena playing despite the physical toll of the Zimbabwe game, playing because Broos needed him, finds Evidence Makgopa in the channel. Makgopa cuts inside, draws a defender, but before he could pull the trigger, Osman Apollos takes the ball off his feet and does not hesitate to make it 2-0. Evidence Makgopa, the striker who had not been the first choice for the starting position, the man who earned his place through form and patience in the misfortune of a teammate's injury, climbed above the Rwandan defense and headed the ball into the corner of the net. 3-0 up for Bafana, and in Uyo, it was 4-0 to Nigeria. Victor Osimhen completed a hat-trick. Benin were finished and South Africa were going to the World Cup. In a country where club rivalries run deep, in a nation that had been divided on Broos' selections on this night, every supporter wore the same jersey. Every South African felt the same thing. Bafana Bafana were going to the 2026 FIFA World Cup.